Hi, hello everybody. How we doing? We powering through? Okay, the energy's like, let's try this again. How we doing? We powering through? Okay, I gotta hit you with this cliffhanger. I know you've all been dying. You guys have the real solutions. I get it. That's what we're all here for, the real solutions. What I have is a suggestion, right? Fossil fuel companies have been lying to us forever. Let's try lying to people. Let's tell them solar power will make them younger. Right? You can see the billboard now, right? Composting can make your dick bigger. That one maybe should be an email, actually. Right? It's like, add 3 inches with composting. I can see it now. Guys are like, do you just sprinkle the dirt on? How does it work? Vegans have better orgasms. No? We disagree? It got very quiet, like maybe I stumbled onto some truth there. That's the secret right there. That's what I think is going to work. Do you guys need like a little warm-up? Should we do a little, you guys want to talk to a partner? I have a fun would you rather. Turn to someone next to you and you got to answer this question, okay? Would you rather, for the rest of your life, be stuck with Cheeto fingers or sand in your shoes? Go. I'm listening to your answers. I'm going to take this as a quiet poll while you all tell each other. I'm hearing a lot of Cheeto-y, I'm hearing some ch. I also love it when it turns into a debate. Okay, now that we've answered that, you guys want my answer? I'm down for Cheeto fingers for life, okay? I don't even care if it gets all over my white jumpsuit. All right, so that was fun. We liked it. You guys are going to be thinking about it on your way home. I can imagine it. We can all talk about it at the Eco Bash. It'll be great. Well, I don't know if you can tell by looking at me, but I grew up in Florida. Thank you. Thank you for your silence. It was not easy. I can prove it too. I know how to run away from an alligator. Does anybody else know? You're making the gesture. You got to run in a zigzag. That's right. Just like, oh, no, over here. Got you again. Oh, over here. I don't know if you have to trash talk it while you do it. That's just how I picture it going. I've never tested it. I've always wondered how they came up with that. I like to imagine a focus group, right? It's like 6 gators in cages, 6 volunteers, just one dude with a clipboard on a platform. Just like, all right, we're going to try the zigzag today. Go! And he hits a button. The cages fall open, and everyone's just like, ah! And they survived. They made it. Thank you. What did they test the day before? Right? Was that like the hopscotch? And they're like, no! I don't know. Zigzag saved us. So, I grew up in Florida, dealt with hurricanes, and I moved here to LA with earthquakes. Natural disasters are everywhere now, so it doesn't matter, like they were talking about Colorado. But I do feel uniquely qualified to talk about hurricanes and earthquakes, okay? Because I think hurricanes are like the grandparents of natural disasters. Because they move slowly, right? They happen in Florida. And they have names like Beatrice and Clyde and Floyd. Right? They're like, I'm coming, give me a minute. It's me, Gerald. Then you got earthquakes, okay? Those terrify me. They're like teenage girls. They're totally unpredictable. They might wreck your car. And then after 15 seconds, they're just over it. Just like, what's the Wi-Fi password? I'm bored. It scares me. So I've been hearing people talk about like all the solutions we can do for climate change and think like little things we can do. And I have to say, one of the things that I think will really motivate people is, besides lying, is incentivizing them, like be selfish about it, right? Like I can think of the things I've done that were good for the environment, but it was just me being selfish. Like I recently told one of my good friends, like I have to reduce my carbon footprint by flying less, so I'm not going to make it to your wedding. I was just like, sorry, Brenda, you know? If you wanted people to come, don't get married in Ohio. I'm not interested. We've also talked a lot, I think, about like fast fashion today. And I'm not saying it's a solution, but like I'm too old for Forever 21 and I'm too poor for J. Crew. So I get a lot of my clothes at Dick's Sporting Goods. That's really my sweet spot. I always look like I'm going golfing or camping. And I usually am. Like lesbians have to. It's not a big deal. Just twice a year, it's fine. I just think it's so rude that they had to call it that. Right? Like you're a sporting goods store. You knew lesbians were going to shop there. And you had to call it Dick's. Right? They're just like, come on down to Dick's. You're going to love Dick's. And I do love Dick's. Sporting goods. I kind of want to see what the sign is for Dick's. Okay. I was trying to peek. Maybe I'll just say Dick's, Dick's. Oh, okay. Now we're all clear. All right, with that, let's get this next panel going. Yes? We're feeling good? Okay, great. I'm going to introduce the moderator of this next panel. Director, producer, writer, responsible for Marry Me and She-Hulk. Please welcome Kat Coiro.
Hi, everybody. So excited to be here today to talk about sustainability in filmmaking, all the way from pre-production to, any kind of publicity you might do and everything in between. And I have an amazing panel here today. They're going to come introduce themselves. Oh, I'm Kat. I have medium brown hair, dark glasses, and gray shorts, which my teenager told me not to wear, but... You guys are all going to introduce yourselves.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Stephanie Dawson. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am a black woman. I wear glasses. I have salt and pepper hair that is slicked back into a bun. I have a jean jacket and a green top with like a kente cloth, African print, green and yellow long skirt.
And do you want to tell all about your company?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I'm a producer. I have worked short form, long form, unscripted, scripted. I currently work in public television, and I also was formerly one of the co-chairs of the Producers Guild Green Committee, and so I want to talk about a lot of those things. You've seen the Green Production Guide listed several times. We also have various efforts. We have a joint group with the WGA to talk about climate storytelling, and we've had some success so far. We partnered with NRDC to have some presentations about climate storytelling, so excited about today's topic. Also, we have started the seeds for an inter-guild sustainability committee. So we had our first meeting from unions and guilds across the US and Canada to come together and talk about what we are doing individually and how we can work together to make some strides. And throughout the panel, happy to share some of those strides we're already making. So that's what I'm here to talk about.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Sandoval, and I'm the Director of Business Development for Earth Angel. Earth Angel is a consulting company that provides comprehensive sustainable production services to productions, long form, short form, live events, and we operate mostly throughout North America, New York, Los Angeles, Atlanta, and we recently opened a Canadian subsidiary where I'm here from Vancouver, where we actually don't run from bears. Like we don't run. That's what you're not supposed to do. Just get big, be loud. Yeah, and forgot to say she, her pronouns. I'm a Filipino woman with mostly dark hair, some gray, and I'm wearing my vintage pants for today that I got in the consignment store to be in line with all the secondhand
Eco chic.
That's right, eco chic. Yeah, so really happy to be here. Happy that we are talking about this very important topic. And thank you to Impact and all the sponsors that brought us here today.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming here today. My name is Max Hermans. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a white Caucasian male with not many hairs left. A black button shirt, white t-shirt, and a jeans. I'm here because I'm the co-founder of an app called The Green Shot. The Green Shot is a web and mobile app that connects cost and carbon footprint for the film industry. I used to work on set as supervising location manager, production manager back in Europe. And my personal belief is that we need to embed sustainability within production flows if we want to include the crew in the process and make efforts as film production here. We are going to launch in the US in the coming months, and I'm very glad to be part of this panel here with everyone today.
Hi, I'm Steve Vitolo. I'm the CEO and founder of Scriptation. I use he, him pronouns. I have a slate shirt, blue pants, gray shoes, and short brown hair. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my company. So I started as a writer and a script coordinator, and I was working on a show where we were printing literally 5,000 sheets of paper every night. So I thought we should do something better than that. So I created Scriptation, which is a paperless script annotation app that transfers notes from one draft of a script to another draft of the script. And since we started tracking this in 2018, we have prevented almost 500,000 scripts from being printed, which has almost 2,000 pounds of CO2 impact on the environment. So happy to be here.
It's so exciting to have people from all the different stages of production, and I can't wait to get into that. Before we have a discussion, though, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kat Coiro. As they said, I am a director and a producer. A few years ago, I made a film called Marry Me and for Universal, and I really wanted to make it sustainable, but I found that it was hard because I wasn't yet aware of all the people out there who want to help and the infrastructure. And so I started eradicating what I could, which was single-use plastic from the screen. And I teamed up with Habits of Waste, the founder Sheila Muravati, she's in the audience today, and we launched Lights Camera Plastic, which I call the kind of gateway environmentalism. It's a small step that creators can take to not show plastic water bottles or unnecessary waste on screen. And I've really found that it starts the conversation. It's a very doable action. We ended up doing it on She-Hulk for Marvel. We did it on the Spiderwick Chronicles for Disney, which is a series I just finished, and my upcoming show Matlock for CBS. We also enacted Lights, Camera, Plastic. And yeah, it's been really exciting and working in this field, meeting all the people out there who, if you're a creator, you have people who are there to support you. And I didn't know that when I started, and that's been a huge part of my growth. But before we jump in, we have, it's a very exciting new project, and we have some never before seen footage from a film that we're going to show our panel, and then we're going to ask you questions about what we can do to make this project more sustainable. Does that sound exciting? Get ready.
I traveled through the 7 levels of the candy cane forest, past the sea of swirly, twirly gumdrops, and then I walked through the Lincoln Tunnel.
So where were you for the last 30 years?
The North Pole. Can you pass the maple syrup, please?
I didn't put... It's spaghetti.
You know what? I think I have something. Yes.
You like sugar, huh?
Is there sugar in syrup?
Yes.
Then yes! We elves try to stick to the 4 main food groups. Candy, candy canes, candy corns, and syrup.
So, will you be staying with us then?
You mean I can stay?
Of course you can.
Emily.
How long do you think you'll be with us?
I hadn't really planned it out, but I was thinking, like, forever.
Emily, can I just speak to you for a minute in the kitchen, please? Are you crazy? He cannot stay here.
Clearly, he has some serious issues. We can't just throw him out in the snow.
Why not? He loves the snow. He's told me 15 times.
Walter, I was...
Santa. Ha ha! Ho ho ho! Yeah! It's me, buddy! It's me! Hey, buddy, how you doing? It's me! Who the heck are you?
What are you talking about? I'm Santa Claus.
No, you're not.
Why, of course I am.
If you're Santa, what song did I sing for you on your birthday this year?
Happy birthday, of course. How old are you, son?
4.
You're a big boy. What's your name?
Paul.
And what can I get you for Christmas?
Don't tell him what you want. He's a liar.
Let the kid talk.
You disgust me. How can you live with yourself?
Just cool it, Zippy.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Look, I'm not kidding.
You're a fake.
I'm a fake?
Yes.
How'd you like to be dead? Huh? No, he's kidding.
You stink.
I think you're gonna have a good Christmas, all
You
right?
smell like beef and cheese. You don't smell like Santa.
Okay.
Oh! He's a monster! He's a fake! He's a fake! I swear! He's a fake! He's not Santa Claus! He's not Santa! Santa?
What? Michael, where you going? Michael!
Santa!
Back off, Slick. Scare the deer.
Buddy, is that you?
Are you okay?
Boy, am I glad to see you. The Clausometer suddenly just dropped down to 0. There's just no Christmas spirit anymore. The strain was too much. The engine broke free of her mounts.
I'm David Birnbaum, and I'm thrilled that the movie...
I need an elf's help.
Start conversations about sustainability. It's so Hi, I'm David Birnbaum, writer of Elf, and I am thrilled that the movie is being used to kickstart conversations about sustainability. It's so important in Hollywood that we use and incorporate sustainable practices into our stories and our work.
So obviously
thank
we were
you
joking.
For joining at the Hollywood
Can you still
Climate
hear me?
Summit, and have a great time.
Hello? Yes. We were joking. It's not a new project. It's not never before seen footage. But we wanted to pick a film that was made long enough ago that these conversations really weren't happening, but also something that is beloved by everybody so that we can have the conversation where we don't want to mess with the story. We don't want to, disrupt the magic of a film like this, but can we have these conversations about sustainability, with something like this? Working in the way I do with lights, camera, plastic, the most obvious thing is the Coke bottle. And it's also very funny. And so that's one of those dilemmas. And the best way to approach something like that is to start right at the writing of the project and say to the writer, we know this is really funny. This is a huge part of his character and his plot. Can you brainstorm 10 other things besides the 2-liter Coke bottle that we could use and still have this moment resonate and be funny? And in my experience, usually there's something unexpected. Creativity is unleashed by thinking outside of the box, by breaking down the habits that we've become conditioned to accept as normal. And then sometimes there is plastic on screen. And if it, you never want to completely disrupt the creativity of a project, but I find that 99% of the time there is a solution that's better than single use. But that's the very obvious kind of first thing everybody sees. Do you want to jump in and talk about this?
Yeah, and on that, just as a writer in a writer's room, if you're going to bring that up and you're going to say, well, the 64-ounce bottle of Coke we should get rid of, you better have another idea. So something you could pitch maybe would be, what about 6 glass bottles of Coke, and it's meant for everyone at the table, and instead he's just drinking all of them when it's supposed to be meant for everyone. So there's another idea. Is that funnier? Up to the writer to decide. But yeah, it's that play of not messing with the creative process, but also making the writer aware, because the writer may not even be aware at all. But once they are, then it's like, okay, let's brainstorm some other ideas.
And just another idea to piggyback off of that. I mean, the gag is that he guzzled something sweet. So maybe there's a comment about how, oh my goodness, the lemonade I made this evening that's in the pitcher, the glass pitcher that's for the table, oh my goodness, it's maybe a little sweet, so you might want to water it down. Before that line's even finished, he's guzzling the whole lemonade out of the glass. So lots of great ideas, because you still keep the gag, you still keep the point of the moment, but you do it in a different way that still addresses it. Now, the other conversation is, I imagine Coke was a sponsor. So how do you incorporate the content and still appease the vendor? Well, there's other ways. We can still have your logo there. You don't necessarily need the bottle, or if the product is there, you have the kind of image of the bottle, not necessarily the physical bottle there. So there's all kinds of ways you can look at, kind of breaking that down.
Yeah, it's more complicated than you would think, but the sooner the conversation starts, the easier it is to implement. And that's what I just keep saying. When we're on the shooting day and Will Ferrell has rehearsed that scene, and then someone goes, oh, we don't want to use plastic. That's a lot more complicated than going to the writer at the inception of the project and saying, hey, when you write this story, think about sustainability. And that's one of the big things we're trying to get everyone to do. Writers writing features, writers' rooms, producers, just have that be in your brain, and it does change the way you think, and it does change the way you tell stories, and oftentimes for the better.
And this isn't I haven't worked on a show in a while. Last show I worked on was Blackish, but there are so many meetings. I mean, Kat, you're in all of these meetings as a director. That could be an early meeting, a pre-production meeting, one of those where you talk about sustainability so that there's time to actually think about these changes and make these changes.
I mean, I always say, along with the HR meeting, the mandatory HR meeting, which we all agree is a great thing, why not have a mandatory sustainability meeting? And again, this isn't about micromanaging everything or taking away people's storytelling tools. It's about having the conversation and starting with something small. But there's obviously a lot of other things besides that Coke bottle. Jen, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, so what we do at Earth Angel is really looking, we work more on the physical production side. So we're not typically involved at the script level, though I really like that idea, because just looking at these clips, there's so many things that just came to mind right away, right off the bat. So you could see there's tons of just materials in there, right? Like paper and gifts and lights. So, especially I remember before the scene, it was him, Will Ferrell making counting out all the snowflakes, and putting them all over the place. And I literally was thinking I wonder what they did with all that paper, so thinking okay, hopefully they're recycling all that paper, but also just sourcing, where are they getting all these materials? Are we able to source them secondhand? And when we're done using them, can we donate them back to, places like EcoSet, where people can actually use them again? So that type of thing. And then a lot of the Christmas lights, are they all LED? And a lot of the lighting decisions actually happen early on, in the design phase. So, we've got an outdoor scene at night. So, that involves what lighting are we using, how are we powering any outdoor scene, special effects, is that biodegradable snow that we can look at? I mean, there's just so many little details like that, but those are the details that really make a difference. And, they might not be as obvious on the screen, but, we know that we're not putting all those things in the landfill at the end of the show.
If I could back up, that's all of that is absolutely like in the production element. When you have a holiday movie, there's going to be a lot of food and there's going to be a lot of decoration. So all of those things come into play. I want to back up just a little bit more for the in the same point about the script. I think what I've heard from some writers in some of the spaces where we've tried to encourage them to have more climate either represented on screen or good behaviors represented on screen. There's a kind of view of like, well, I can't control what happens in production. I'm not deciding what props we're buying, what all those kinds of things. And so we're really looking at how to encourage writers to recognize that night scenes inherently cost more than day scenes because you've got to bring out all that artificial light. Scenes where there's meal scenes, where there's usually, I don't know about y'all, but anytime I see a film where people are eating, there is much more food than we have ever had at home. Like when I'm at home, we have enough. We basically cook enough for everybody to have their portion. But for some reason on film sets, it's just this whole buffet of food. So things like that can be done at the writer's stage. Like you can really encourage, just taking that step back of like, when I write. It's an affluent apartment in New York City. That's going to be many more resources putting that together than if it's someone's country home. And while I agree with you about the decorations, I appreciate that there were no plastic toys and no plastic decorations. So that to me, the popcorn stringed up decorations and all the paper cutouts, I mean, that could have been something that the writer wrote into the script. Like these are handmade, and honestly, everything can be disposed of in a responsible way. So screenwriters, you can encourage and affect the actual production even when you're writing your scenes. And I'm sure we can talk more about that. But
Well, you said, Jen, that you don't come to the process until later, but that I think is part of what we're talking about incorporating. If you had this meeting very early on where you did come and join the conversation, what I have found is that everybody wants to help. Everybody's concerned about the environment. People just don't know where to start. And so having these conversations early on actually empowers people and excites them. My last few production designers have loved that they've been given the license to look for sustainable products and to just rethink the way they approach things. And so I think that's exactly what we're trying to do, is bring people like you into the conversation earlier and empower everybody. It's not about a dictatorship. I always say I don't want to be the plastic police. I want everybody to feel like we're working together to make the world a better place and to reflect the world we want with the worlds that we're creating on screen. Max, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I can only compliment what was already said there. I think Jennifer flagged very well everything, every piece of either props or fabrics or food, or especially night scene with snow, continuity-wise, means that you need to remake that fake snow. And we've seen some very bad things in the past when people were needing to make snow. Sometimes people were just putting white plastics out there. It seems awful now, but that was the practice back then. So. And compliment Steve also. I mean, if you want to act on your production, it happens obviously at script stage, but also at prep stage. Like once the train starts running, you cannot stop it. And having Earth Angel, for example, team on set is definitely part of going the right way, but you need to include all the crew members also in that process. I mean, the props buyer must know where to source the supply, and they need to know what to do with it afterwards. When you see that Christmas scene with all the kids there, I mean, that set is full of many, many things, and I hope they did something else than put everything in the waste bin after. But many films did that for many years. So yeah, that was my take on it.
Yeah, and speaking of food, I know that there are programs also that use the food and donate food, and in Vancouver, I think they're especially good about that. Is that true?
Yeah, we're we work with a lot of organizations. In fact, there are organizations in every region, like everywhere. And people sometimes can be afraid of it. We've had some studio people like, oh, we're a little, scared about the liability. But really, and we've researched it, in every jurisdiction, pretty much anywhere in North America, they have laws that actually encourage donation, and there's very, very little risk. So, we have wonderful organizations that we work with in every region to take these this leftover food and donate it to people that are in need. However, with prop food, it can't be donated for for consumption, but that's where you need a really good composter, right? So we work with and we'll vet and look for people that are doing composting. We know that they're doing it in the proper way, and we try to avoid incineration if possible, but it's different everywhere, and infrastructure is different in every place we work in. So we try to work and find out the best resources wherever we are to handle, at the end of life as well as the beginning, and where we're sourcing all of that, all of it.
And I just wanted to jump in because I have seen so many great panels on this stage talking about a lot of different facets, and I think it's important to call out the intersectionality of all these elements. If we're throwing food away while we have a growing number of food insecure people, I mean, that's a real way that you're still telling your story, but you can make sure that the food, you said these huge catering setups, so instead of throwing that food into the garbage, it can go into the mouths of people who need the food. And then if it's food that cannot be consumed for whatever reason, food waste is, I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but there's a large amount of food waste that ends up in landfill, which will not break down because there's no oxygen in that environment. So we're contributing to more carbon emissions by throwing that food away. So composting it is a better alternative all around. So while it may seem as simple as, making sure food gets donated or not ending up in the trash, you also are reducing your carbon emissions by making sure it gets put into these other kind of pathways. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always thinking kind of in a life cycle way of, where are we getting it? How are we making it? What materials are we using? And actually, that's the other thing is, they probably had to build a lot of the sets. And so what kind of lumber are we using? Is it, certified sustainable? These are just all things. But, as we've all said, it's so much more likely to have, a better result if you're at the planning stages. Right. Oftentimes we're brought on, 2 days before we go to camera. There's no budget. We're trying our best to do what we can, but it's really difficult. So, what we try to do is, get in as early as possible, and then, try to make it easier, right? So that's really like our role, is to be a resource, because nobody has time to do all this stuff, research all the vendors, figure out where to compost, figure out where to take the food. I mean, it's a lot of planning and strategy. So we will try to, do that for you. And, but it does take the whole crew, right? I mean, there's only a few of us that are physically on set at one time. So just like it takes a crew to make a film, it actually takes the entire crew to, make a sustainable film.
And writers, directors, showrunners, producers, you have the power to bring someone like Jen on early and open those conversations. And a lot of times people don't realize that. So we've talked a lot about what's on screen, but can you guys also address some behind the scenes measures that you're supporting, enacting?
So every set is like a small city. So cities need power. So we're talking about shifting away from having your diesel generator, especially when, if you're in a physical, like a house or location, you can tap into the power grid that's already there. So that's a better solution than having your diesel generator. And on many facets, because the generator is loud. So then sound is not, you're not able to get good sound. Batteries are quiet. So looking at your power to power the actual set itself, base camp, all those kinds of things. Another big thing is transportation. I was talking to Jennifer earlier, the Sustainable Production Alliance is one of the co-founders of the Green Production Guide. And last year, I believe it was, they put out a report that measured, I think, over 200 feature films, somewhere around 300 unscripted projects, and determined that energy was the largest contributor to the carbon footprint of any production. And it didn't matter what kind of production it was. It didn't matter if it was short or long, scripted, unscripted. Energy is one of the biggest elements. Transportation, flying all of your cast, all of your, not just your heads of departments, but their assistants and other people to a location to film, that is something that contributes significantly to the carbon footprint. So again, with intersectionality, if we hire local, if we buy local, if we're not flying in goods and services, we're actually, partaking in what's already available in the place where you're filming. Those are ways that you can reduce your carbon footprint specifically. So again, tangible kind of thing. The sourcing, as you mentioned, so if you can make sure that your materials are ethically sourced, if your costumes are not made of, not having all the microplastics and all those things, you're reducing your carbon footprint. And then things, I'll let Steve talk more about it, but I was on a show once where every day we got, it's a feature film, every day we got a script change, and it was just 1 or 2 changes.
There's an app for that.
There is an app for that. But there were people who wanted the entire script reprinted. Now, we have a whole system of colors and stars and everything to let you know what has changed, but some of these people wanted the entire script printed. So we're trying to enact policies where it's a print by request only. Any schedule, any call sheet, any script, all those things are coming to you digitally unless you specifically ask. Sides is another one. Nowadays, especially younger actors, they don't even want the sides. They're just looking on their phone. So those are things that we do on a regular basis that we're now shifting the mindset. Instead of automatically getting something on paper, now it's going to be something that's digital.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that seems so obvious, and something I would love to push is the opt-in to where it's automatically digital unless you opt into paper and not the other way around. And it's the simplest thing, and I think studios can adopt that across the board because it's nothing to them, and it's, if anything, is going to save them money from paper costs. But we keep talking about it starts at the script, and it starts at the script printing. I mean, we've been at production meetings and table reads, and there's paper scripts everywhere with highlighters and pens, and then the actors will come in with the script they've already highlighted, and then you have the 15 extra copies that the PA has to print on the table, that 4 of them get taken, those 11 never get touched. So there's just such an amount of waste and miscommunication there that we don't have to do that. We all have devices that we use for several other things, and we can use them for our scripts and have it be more efficient, more productive for everyone.
So other things are reducing your locations, making your footprint smaller, so you don't have to have a van doing roundies between set and base camp. If we can phase out trailers, if anyone saw Jonathan's speech yesterday about ego, the trailers and, so many people's trailers and somebody else has a trailer, so I want a bigger trailer. If you have a physical location, we, have a hotel room, or we have, a space that already exists that doesn't require you to have gas to power that location. So there's so many things but like literally, if you think about any department, and I would encourage you, if you can go to greenproductionguide.com and go to the production environmental action checklist, or the PEACH, it literally breaks down department by department actions that you can do to make your production more sustainable. It's free, you can just download it, it's an Excel spreadsheet. If you follow certain procedures, you might get a seal for the end of your credits. So if you need more ideas, that's a great place to just, right now, just find, I think it's got like 400 entries. So I think it's like at least 20 or so per department that you can check on right now.
Yeah, maybe to also add to this, and what can we do on set, actually. So I quit filming 2 years ago in June 2021, and what I wanted to keep pushing on set, and what we are pushing with Greenshot, is that films are basically a very wealthy company spending lots of money in a very short amount of time and traveling here and there everywhere. And we come in cities where nobody knows us. We have only hired staff from abroad, and we come in there and we get out after, disturbing the neighbors for a couple of weeks and making lots of noise there. So that's the point, is that And obviously we talk about carbon footprint, but it's larger than that. I think it's about social and inclusion and all of that too. Like when we get to a city and we know enough in advance, we would ask the head of security if we could find a couple persons from that neighborhood to work with us also, because all those people, needs often work and they see a lot of food, all those shiny trucks everywhere, they see us and then we go away with leaving nothing. I think that because of everything that we consume on set, rather than going to the waste, we can maybe give back to local communities where we go, and that helps reducing the carbon footprint. And at the end of the day, of course, we need to be accountable for how many kilograms of emissions we do and whatnot. But any crew member, when you tell him or her that you did emit 500 kilograms of carbon as a location manager, for example, I can't do much with that information. The information I could use is what is available locally. How can I have local economy being part of the movie, all of that part. So we're really pushing towards that. The climate change and sustainability on set allows us to rethink a little bit how we do things, and that's where we want to head now, yeah.
Another thing I love is subliminal messaging. If you look at Marry Me and Owen Wilson's classroom, there are little posters about protecting the environment. And the kids all have hydro flasks. And there's this awesome company called Post, all uppercase, ED, Posted. And they provide free, cleared artwork with positive messaging. And that's something that's exciting because that's a cost. Getting cleared artwork in the backgrounds of scenes, especially when it's not featured, costs something. So I always love using that because it brings savings, which anyone who's ever tried to go sustainable knows that the first question is, but we can't afford it. We're an indie, we can't afford it. Can you guys speak to how this can actually end up saving money?
So that's something that we are very, very conscious of because, like you're saying, Kat, it's often a barrier, right? We don't have any money to do that. But what we have found, and this is really what all the things that we're saying here, how much paper we're using, how much, fuel we're buying, how, all the materials and everything. One of the things that is so important is, actually documenting and tracking what you're doing so that you're able to, learn from that and maybe improve on that from, on a subsequent season or a subsequent feature. But in terms of the cost, that's something that has been kind of, just not really understood. So, one good example is, we'll say, well, why don't we rent some EV vehicles? And we look at the rental cost for that versus what a regular ICE vehicle would be, and it's just like this, right? And they're like, oh no, we can't afford that. But then we'll kind of go back and look at, well, let's look at the fuel costs, especially in the last couple of years where fuel costs have just skyrocketed. And we've really seen that using an ICE vehicle and paying for fuel is actually costs more than renting an EV. So that's just something that isn't always understood, as well as for generators. There's a lot of options now for cleaner generators, electric options. In fact, I was thinking that one of the things in the scene could have been an electric sleigh, where Santa goes and just recharges it at some charger.
And that would be funny too.
Yeah,
that was the case.
He charges it with Christmas spirit.
Yeah, exactly. The Christmas spirit electric charger. But anyways, so generators as well. We look at, so as Stephanie was saying, one of the biggest focus now for all the studios and is decarbonizing, right? So as we're collecting the data, we're seeing fuel is always the number one source of greenhouse gas emissions for any size production, pretty much. And so we're looking at ways to reduce that. And with generators, we look at other options, we look at tie-ins, and when you're using these other options and not paying for fuel, it will almost always result in a savings. So, but the number one is just let's buy less, right? Let's just buy less overall, if possible. So there are many instances where we are seeing savings. There are some cases where we are paying a premium, but I think, after time goes on, those things will be more normalized and those prices will not be, really they won't stand out as much, and we're just kind of build those into our regular budgets.
And I just want to echo on that. I think one of the biggest things is that I hope everybody's getting is pre-planning, being intentional, and then pre-planning. And I think the biggest element is right-sizing whatever it is. So instead of, I think when you empower your entire crew, they don't feel the need to buy 15 options. You know, everybody, we had the conversation, we know maybe you get 5 options instead of buying, you know, kind of overbuying when it comes to your fuel. So a big innovation that we're seeing right now is renewable diesel. I don't know if Lydia Dean Pilcher is in the audience. There she is. So one thing that they're encouraging, the DGA is now, they have a Sustainable Futures Committee. They're one of the members of the Interguild Alliance, and so their committee put together, initiative to like maybe put together your power plan. Like figure out actually how much power you need to use as opposed to what, because everybody just kind of, we need the diesel generator and we'll get a huge one because we want to make sure we're powering everything in base camp. But if you actually, when those numbers have been reviewed, we're probably using about 20% of the generator, which doesn't help the generator because it actually, like any kind of battery, like it needs to be used to like 60 or 80%, or you see more breakdown. So if we can have smaller generators, if we can use battery for those places that need to be powered overnight, or for Video Village, or some of those smaller elements, instead of buying the biggest, renting the biggest generator, then you're seeing a savings. Another one I think is, it really is interesting is like the plastic bottles. Not having plastic bottles on set hits so many points, but for one, if you buy that flat of water, at least in New York City, there's a fee on top of every bottle, and you're supposed to get that back if you recycle it. Well, people don't put their name on the bottle. There's bottles that are half drunk, so you're like water's wasted, the actual plastic's wasted. If you just buy the reusable bottles up front for the entire crew, that is an upfront cost that looks like high at the beginning. But if then you have refilling stations, you're not having all that plastic, and you're actually saving money over the course of it, because that flat of water maybe is a 24-pack, but the 5-gallon jug can refill water over and over again, and we're not wasting water because my name is on my bottle. So it's like little things like that it seems small, but when you look at the analysis at the end, you've actually saved money. And so it's not just the plastic, like that's a very important part of it. It's not just the recycling, that's a very important part of it. It is also saving you money.
Yeah, that is the most important part of it, when you're talking to the studios and when you're trying to enact this change. And that makes me think also of needing infrastructural support, because to tell everyone to bring their bottle and then there's not a great filling station is not being a good sustainable leader. And so how do we start talking to the stages, to put a water bottle filling station on every stage? So then when you say, bring your bottle, you can get nice, cool, clean water.
Also, be the change. If you're on a production that is not sustainable, bring your own water bottle, bring reusable utensils, and people will feel guilty. Trust me. If you're on the craft service line and you're using your, lunch pail that you brought in, that they'll say, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then the next day, there might be another person that has that. So if you're doing it and feel good about yourself, it will catch on.
And just to piggyback on that, I was on a show that necessarily wasn't sustainable. So I brought in my compost bin, and in New York, we have weekly, at different parts of the city, there are these farmers markets, so they have compost collection. So I just left the bin in the shared space, and people were like, oh, and it was a mystery. It was like, who brought in the compost bin? But I would leave a sign like, it's being dumped, it'll be returned, and slowly more and more people started adopting it. So you can also kind of do a sneak attack to get people to do it.
Mystery composter.
Yeah, and also I think more and more crew members are asking for a solution too. 4 or 5 years ago, maybe not as much as now, but now with all the, what we see in the news and everything, you have makeup artists or hairdresser or grips that are coming up, or like, what can I do? And sometimes there's not a magical recipe, like do this or do that, but I really believe in like more daily knowledge sharing, like every day give more info about either about his position specifically or about something general, because that empowers also people towards, change. And then after that, bringing water bottles or changing transportation. One word on the transportation that Stephanie mentioned. Transportation can save a lot of money, save a lot of carbon footprint, and get hours and hours of rest more to people. Sometimes you go shoot, 1 hour, 90 minutes outside of the city. And if you look at the map, it's like basically 80 cars that follow each one another with one guy in the car. So once you have a little bit of like infrastructure you mentioned, and you say, okay, let's all meet at that point outside the city, and we drive like 4 by car. Seems very obvious and simplistic, but yet nobody does that on set. And so that's 3 more people having 2 hours more rest on the same day, the producer paying for 1 car instead of 4, and same for carbon emission. So it's very practical. It seems like a little bit too simplistic, but yet we don't do that on film. So that's what I think the change means for everyone on set here.
I just want to echo also on that point. And one of the national TV shows that Earth Angel was on and had like your sustainability coordinator for the entire series started encouraging competition between departments. And it was like, which department can come up with a new solution now? And then it's like bragging rights. And so, that not only provides a foundation, but encourages the crew to take part. So then you've got like, there's a company that recycles the mascara wands. I mean, like, if each department is looking at something that affects them, and they're empowered to participate, it like you just see a spirit kind of reverberate, and everybody's working together and helping each other. So I think that's you hit a very good point. Is like empower them, encourage them, and when everybody's kind of in the synergy, like what else can we do? It really kind of makes the environment so much more fun.
Well, it's very positive, and I think one of the pitfalls of sustainability and environmentalism is when it's approached from a doom and gloom. We're all going to die. The ocean is filled with plastic. People kind of get demoralized and pull back, and they say, "Well, I guess there's nothing I can do," and there are all these big problems. Forget it. And when you approach it from a positive place, like every department, everybody on set can do something that is hugely meaningful. Because the cutlery, it's such a tiny thing, but then you have an actor who says, "Ooh, I like that cutlery," and you buy them that as a little present, and then they start using it, and they talk about it, and they, really getting the talent involved is such a huge part of spreading the message. But I think just hearing you guys talk, one of the big themes is positive change, positive environmentalism, positive sustainability, rather than, shame and guilt. Little guilt is okay.
Yeah,
but
shame works. No, I was just going to say, I worked on a show once a while ago, and we often will do these kind of like green champion competitions just to raise awareness and, increase crew engagement. And we had the art department, our eco rep had the art department make one of those like big gold like WWF like wrestling championship belts, and you would not believe how competitive they got. People just wanted the belt. They didn't care about the eco prize, whatever. They wanted the belt, and it was hilarious because they would like fight over it, and it actually ended up being really fun, and it was and actually really very like educational.
I love that, and we're right at the end. No. I wanted everyone to go and talk about an experience that they've had that is positive and that the audience might like to hear, or talk about whatever you want.
No problem. I just wanted to add, you sparked an idea about another thing is wrap gifts. Like, how many jackets can you get? But I've seen some people do solar bags or solar chargers or the
cutlery.
The cutlery branded with your show. Like, all of these things are other things you can do to like encourage the behavior even once the show is done, or let them take that home. And so that's a big thing. So one thing I wanted to share, like I said, I work for a public television, and we do a lot of live events. And I was there for a year, and I sat quiet, which, is not easy for me to do, as you probably can tell. So I was like, okay, I can't let this happen again. So I went to the executive producer of my show, long-running show, and said, we need to put in some sustainability measures for the next time we do this shoot. So we called in Earth Angel, and we hired 2 eco PAs to handle all the backstage. The key for us was communication. I talked to everybody. This was if you watch PBS, the show Great Performances, we cover Shakespeare in the Park, the free Shakespeare in the Park show every year, so far every year, in Central Park in New York. So I talked to Central Park, talked to the Public Theater that puts on the show. So everybody was involved from the beginning so that we all had a communication. And we understood everybody's concerns. the Central Park says, we want to make sure that you aren't leaving, that you're adhering to our policies, because the park had certain policies. The other thing is there are a lot of raccoons back there, so to be collecting food, uneaten food in the back area where the raccoons are, they just wanted to make sure that our containers were raccoon safe. So we talked to our production manager who was ordering food, and we made sure that the food vendors, which was a question we had to ask. If we don't ask, they're just going to give us the same old plastic, not non-recyclable packaging. But we said in our vendor selection, you need to be able to provide compostable containers. So these kinds of things, when you ask your vendors, and if they do not step up, then that lets them know this is something people need. This is a demand I need to fill. So they will change their tune. So it was a 3-day production. We were able to, divert a lot of the waste in that show. And Earth Angel gave us a report that I then shared not only with the executive producer of the show, but the president of the company. And he saw that and was like, oh, we need to tell everybody. So at the next meeting that everybody attended, I presented on this. Now we have an RFP to make every production more sustainable. So like little things it's really amazing how you encourage one thing. And I had so many crew members come to me and like, I'm so excited. This is great. I go on so many shows. Can you get this at the Met Opera? Can you get this at all these other places? Because the foundation was there. They saw how easy it was because Earth Angel came in and they did it. That's I think another big thing is that we didn't make the crew feel like they had to do much more. There were the bins out there, and then Earth Angel went through and made sure that everything was sorted properly, sourced it, donated to the Rock Can Roll organization any food that was uneaten but was still edible. All of this thing was taken care of, and we had the reporting, which let the money saving and the reporting were the big things that the bigwigs wanted to see. So I stand Earth Angel, I stand EcoSet, all these companies that are helping us take those steps, because that's who we need. We need to partner with organizations such as Earth Angel.
Yay. I think we're at the end, guys. Why doesn't everyone just go through and just do one little last message that you want to share with the audience? And also any resource you've mentioned, maybe go ahead and name that so people can write it down if they missed it.
Maybe. Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you.
Why don't we start at the very end and go this way?
I got to go first. I was going to share a very quick story. That the last show I was working on, we were printing over 100 scripts for every distribution, and I would check every so often, like how many did we get it down, because I was, let's say, encouraging the use of scriptation. And we ended up getting it down to 55 by the time I left. Not 0, but that's a huge chunk of scripts that didn't have to be printed. And then about a few months ago, one of the final converts in the writer's room messaged me and was like, all right, I finally converted. I don't know what I was doing.
I, too, am a recent convert, and I can say that
Kat.
it's fantastic. Scriptation, everybody. Get it, use it.
I just wanted to bounce back on what you were saying about us being all very positive about it. Obviously, the situation out there is dramatic and all of that, but us, and I think mainly all the people in this room, sustainability is here to stay, and whether we make it a burden or an opportunity is up to all of us here and the producers out there. And so I think you have all panelists here that want to take the opportunity of sustainability to rethink quite a bunch of things, like how we transport people, or we power set, or we consume, or we waste, or we reuse, recycle everything. So I think it's a positive opportunity to be taken by anyone here, and looking forward to keep working. If anyone is obviously interested in doing and partnering or discussing or whatever with us, we have a organization is called Green Shot, and we are really looking forward to meet anyone willing to go towards that direction.
It's so wonderful to hear all the work that you guys are doing, and we do want to be positive, but we also have to be really, really serious, because this is a climate crisis. It's not going away, and it's just getting worse. And what we saw over the last few years with COVID, the pandemic, we saw an industry that just snapped to it and figured it out. They somehow paid for everything. They somehow kept everything going. And so we know we can do it. And I think we just need to keep working together, and I think we can do it.
Earth Angel.
And I just want to say one more thing I forgot to say earlier is that with our Integrid Alliance, again, empowering each department, the Teamsters, Local 817 in New York, helped bring renewable diesel to New York City. So it's going to be at the pump. It's piloted in a station in Brooklyn. So it's empower your departments. Let people know that they can do their part. And it was like literally, they made it happen. So it wasn't like everybody kind of pushing them. They made it happen, and hopefully that will spread around New York. It's already available in California, available in Vancouver, so please.
And you said peach, is that the green?
In the Green Production Guide, there's a full toolkit. There's the peach, which is the basically the checklist. There's also the pear, which is the carbon calculator. They have all these cool acronyms. But you can just go to greenproductionguide.com and it's free. Download the toolkit. There's also memos. If you're a producer, if you're a department head and you want to share information, there are pre-planned memos. There are infographics on location, at a stage, all the different ways you can implement things. So it's a free resource. Case studies. I mean, it's just, I could go on forever. I'm going to try to stop. But please check it out. And there's other resources. Hollywood Climate Summit has put together an action guide. Please check it out. It's exhaustive. It's amazing. It will help you if you can do one new thing next time. You don't have to do everything that we're saying. I know it's hard. I know if you're someone who's working on the crew and you're not necessarily a person who's deciding how the money is spent, if you're not the director, you're not the producer, you're not the head of the department, if you can do one thing the next time and then maybe two things the time after that, that is making a difference.
And we have similar resources at Habits of Waste. Also, if you go to the Lights, Camera, Plastic, we have notes that you can send to the crew. We have signs you can put in the office or put on a Scriptation iPad and put on a stand. You don't want to print paper, but there's so many resources, and I'm so happy to get to know you all today and hear all your awesome ideas. And thank you everybody for coming.
Well, just to be super brief, everyone, thank you so much for joining the Hollywood Climate Summit. Let's give it up for our amazing panelists. And just because we are literally shutting the stream down, I'm just going to put our closing remarks out there and really say thank you for coming. I hope that the key takeaway of this event for everyone is 2 words: collective action. There's so many people doing such incredible work that we can all get behind, we can plug into. We are not alone in wanting this, and there's so many ways in. So thank you for building a community of collective action with us. Thank you for supporting us in building it. Thank you to the team at the Academy for really, really giving us this opportunity and this platform to be here together. Thank you to the Hollywood Climate Summit team for bringing us together, putting the nuts and bolts of this machine together, and thank you to you all for everything you're doing every single day and for showing up here in the spirit with which you did. Thank you.
So I love that quote that Dorothy Fortenberry has, that if climate is in your story, then really your story is science fiction, and that's certainly going to be true in 10 years. It's just going to feel so divorced from our lives if climate isn't portrayed in stories.
I mean, it should be a part of our everyday conversation, right?
Good Energy strives to inspire courage in the face of the climate crisis. They will also provide tools and support for those brave enough to tell these essential stories.
We are here tonight to ensure that we are reframing the climate crisis in a way that people are at the center of the story, especially Black and brown and indigenous and young people.
Our mission is to inspire, support, and accelerate stories in scripted television and film that reflect the world that we live in now and help imagine a better future. But we're missing the stories that can help us navigate it. The purpose of the playbook is to change that. We wrote the playbook to help explore the endless ways the climate crisis can be portrayed on screen, from casual mentions to using climate as character drive and plot.
USC analyzed over 37,000 scripts from 2016 to 2020 and found that only 1,046, that's 2.8%, of these scripts included any climate change keywords. 2.8% feels staggeringly low.
Acknowledging the climate crisis in our stories will help audiences process their own difficult emotions. We need to talk about it in our stories so that we can talk about it in real life. And the most important thing that you can do for the climate is to write a damn good story.
Because every story we tell right now has to have climate change in it.
Stories shape our societies. They shape our policies. And they have the potential to make the impossible feel tangible. This playbook is a tool. It's going to provide you with the inspiration, with the guidance that you need to write powerful climate stories.
Climate change is an unprecedented challenge, and surviving and even thriving will require unprecedented creativity. This is Hollywood's role of a lifetime. It all starts with a great story.
Put a line in the rhyme and a little more fun. Put a line in the rhyme and a little more fun. Put a line in the